the enduring legacy of the Caddo Nation, in Uncle Ernest O'Pine's reflection. Now, I've heard it said that time don't move the same on Caddo ground. You can feel it if you ever stand still long enough by the Ouachita or down along the bottoms where the cypress lean and the river hums. The air feels thick with stories older than English words, older than roads, older than fences, and I reckon that's because this was and still is the home of the Hasínay, the Caddo people. The Caddo weren't just passing through this part of the world, they made the world here. Their roots run deeper than any survey line or deed could ever reach. Before this land was Arkansas or Louisiana, or even a dream in some European cartographer's mind, the Caddo had already been here for 1,000 years, maybe 2. They raised up their lives in the pattern of the stars and built their homes with the rhythm of the rivers. You can still see their work if you know where to look. A soft rise in a pasture, a mound of earth that refuses to level out no matter how many plows have scraped over it. Their old stories say they came up from the underworld, led by the moon, who told them not to look back. The first man brought a pipe, fire, and a drum. His wife brought corn and pumpkin seeds, and just like that, they carried with them all the ingredients of a civilization: diplomacy, ceremony, sustenance, and song. You can call that mythology if you want to, but I call it memory, the kind that roots itself in soil and never lets go. Archaeologists, bless their hearts, have their own way of telling the same tale. They'll speak of the Forch Malin culture, of woodland peoples turning into mound builders right here in the heart of what we now call the South. They'll point to shards of pottery with lines so precise they look machine-cut, or to corn pollen in ancient soil, and they'll say, this is where the Caddo began to rise. But I reckon the Caddo never really began. They just were, the way the sun just is. Their mound towns were more than dirt piled high. Each one was a blueprint of belief. Flat-topped temple mounds stood as the homes of their chiefs and priests, while conical burial mounds held the honored dead, wrapped in copper and shell beads from as far away as the Great Lakes and the Gulf. These were cities that breathed with the seasons, places where the earth itself was part of the architecture. Imagine it, men and women moving by torchlight, climbing those earthen steps to offer thanks to the moon and the corn mother, the drums carrying through pine and oak. Then came the strangers, first the Spanish, then the French, then the English, and with them came sickness that no medicine man could heal. The Caddo world, once a web of towns and trade routes, was torn to threads by fevers and guns and treaties that promised everything and delivered nothing. The mounds went quiet, the plazas emptied, and by the 1800s, the Hasínay were being pushed west across the Red River, then north into what's now Oklahoma. They were told to leave their land, but I reckon the land never left them. What's remarkable, no, what's miraculous, is that they're still here, not as relics or ruins, but as a living nation. The Caddo Nation today has their government in Binger, Oklahoma, and they've carried that ancient story forward into the modern world. They brought back their pottery, those same coiled and pit-fired vessels that once held offerings to the spirits. Artists like Jerry Redkern and Chase Cowan-Hoot Eels are reviving forms that hadn't been seen in centuries, and they're doing it with the same hands that shaped this continent long before a sawmill or church bell rang. And then there's the language, Hasínay. The linguists call it dormant, but the Caddo call it resting. That's a mighty difference if you ask me. A thing that's dead can't wake up, but a thing that's resting just needs the right song to stir it. The Caddo Nation's language program is bringing those words back into daylight, one syllable at a time, and I'd bet my Sunday shirt that the ancestors are smiling about it. In 2019, a tornado tore through the Caddo Mound State Historic Site in Texas. It took lives and leveled buildings, but when the storm passed, the people came back, just like their stories said they would. They rebuilt the grass house, that great woven dome of river cane and patience, and in doing so, they rebuilt something inside themselves. You can't tell me the Caddo are gone. They're right there, bending cane and singing the old songs in the shadow of the same hills their forebears walked. When I stand out on this soil, Arkansas soil, Caddo soil, I think about how long they've been teaching us what it means to belong to a place, to love it enough not to own it, but to care for it. Their word for the earth, Ina, means mother, and maybe that's the truest name of all. See, we modern folks, we like to think we invented sustainability or community, but the Caddo lived those ideas without giving them fancy names. They planted corn, beans, and squash together because those plants fed each other. They governed by council because one voice alone couldn't see all sides. They wove river cane into baskets and stories alike, both meant to hold something precious. Every so often, when I drive past a bayou at dusk and see the reflection of the moon sitting fat and silver on the water, I think about Nish, that moon who led them up and told them not to look back. Maybe that's a lesson for all of us. We can't go back to what was, but we can carry forward what mattered. Care for the land, respect for each other, and gratitude for the breath in our lungs. So here's to the Hasínay, the Caddo nation, the people who came from the earth and never stopped belonging to it. Their story isn't over. It's just stretching into a new season, like corn reaching for light. And maybe if we're lucky, the rest of us can learn to grow that way too.